Hello y'all, this is Kaiserredux, a mod for Heartsbyron 4 that serves as an unofficial standalone expansion for Kaiserreich. Kaiserreich itself is a mod set in a world where the Central Powers won World War I. What you're watching is part 1 of my Bohemia playthrough for this mod. This kind of video format is somewhat of an experiment for the channel, so do be aware of that, and also everything you hear after this will be improvised in terms of talking. Alright, on the country selection screen we're going to go with the Kingdom of Bohemia led by T.G. Meserick, and its brief history goes like this. Karl I's favorite, the Kingdom of Bohemia, in 1936, saw much change in 15 years. After the Weltkrieg, the idea of Czechoslovakia was flushed out and the politicians would never return. In 1924, Karl crowned himself King of Bohemia, leading to riots and near revolution. This event struck a fuse that would drive the empire to the South Slavic revolts and alter Vienna's course drastically. In 1926, the Pardoners' Agreement was signed, pardoning major figures who left Prague to negotiate independence from Meserick to the legionnaires, along with many reforms. Bohemia is content in the empire, but rumors whisper that many of the Czech officials still yearn for a free Czech people. And with that description out of the way, we're going to load in. I'm going to skip past the loading screen and I'll see you guys once we officially start the game. We have started, and let's go to the Kingdom of Bohemia, and see our national spirits. We have constituent of the Austrian Empire. This national royal holding is a constituent part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, at least in name. The German-Czech division, ever since the Bohemian reforms of the crown went into effect, Germans residing in German Bohemia have felt betrayed and unrepresented by the Czech governments, while the Bund der Landräte and some other minor German parties have Czech equivalents. The common German Bohemian feels unsatisfied in Bohemia. The Czech administrations have steps to take before ensuring true stability in Bohemia. Charles University, named after the Holy Roman Emperor Charles IV, Charles University has served as the linchpin of Bohemian higher education. After the revolutions of 1848 and the subsequent rise of nationalism, Charles University suffered a split due to linguistic differences between Germans and Czechs. Charles University was subsequently divided into Charles Ferdinand University by the Imperial Council and were of equal status. By 1928, the Germans moved their university to Reichenberg, which saw Francis Mayer gain an increased role in the school's pro-Czech policy. Nonetheless, today, Charles University continues to serve Bohemia to its fullest extent. Skoda Works. Founded by Emil Skoda in 1899, Skoda was a collection of holdings of machines and arm factories acquired in the latter half. Oh my goodness. Acquired in the latter half of the 19th century, Skoda was Austro-Hungary's most important artillery supplier and overall forms a large swath of the importance of the Crown of Bohemia to Vienna, as Skoda and similar industrial enterprises dominate the region's industrial prowess. Skoda, after the Weltkrieg, transitioned back to civilian cars, tractors, and other manners of vehicles, but for a brief time during the South Slavic revolts, they supplied both sides of the conflict with artillery, officially siding with Vienna in the process. Rule separation. The industrial centers of Bohemia are split from the rural countrysides of Bohemia, with both physical and government infrastructure being too sparse. This means that it is too difficult for Prague to communicate with rural towns and cities. Legacy of the coronation. Essential aspect of contemporary Bohemian history, Kaiser Karl I was crowned King of Bohemia in 1924, much to the still boiling nationalist fury. In hindsight, the coronation what awoke Austria-Hungary to its deep divide, and thus began the drafting of the federalization plan, I think that's what it says, the overall plan to finally federalize Austria-Hungary and save it from imminent internal collapse. It is also what started the South Slavic revolts, as Slavic ill will refired in its brick kilns in Bosnia. Over the course of half a decade, the South Slavs and guerrillas fought against Vienna, but ended in defeat, culminating in the formation of Illyria in 1933. And with all those national spirits out of the way, we are led by T.G. Meserick, who has his own description, and we are social liberal in terms of ideology. We are also a puppet of Austria, And the Austrian Empire includes us, Illyria, and Hungary, and Galicia, Lodomeria. So it's the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Now, for technology, we have rifles that are modern from 1936, motorized light tanks from 1934, basic artillery, and 1936 Coast Air Support, basic fighters, and tactical bombers. Moving to the military now, we have 11 divisions, 7 are infantry, 2 are motorized artillery, and 2 are militia. Let's put those in an army. Now for our generals, we have quite a few of them, but we do have 2 field marshals, so that's nice. Actually, hold on, I messed up there. Put that guy. We need a general and a field marshal. There we go. Now for research, let's do production, basic machine tools, engineering, electronic mechanical engineering. And I like to do a military doctrine early on, so I'm going to do superior firepower doctrine. That's good. Civilian factories, get those to work. Let's see what has the best infrastructure. Let's go with Prague. Get those civilian factories built over time. And we have a massive focus tree, but we can't do much here yet until some certain events happen. For the time being, though, we're going to do the castle into 1936. The castle has been firmly led by Masaryk for a decade now, ever since he came to take the reins in the Partners' Agreement. Now with a new year ahead of us, Masaryk's age continues facing Bien's to take a more active role in the nation's government in his stead. Okay, let's get some divisions in training. What does this template say? What's this template say? Alright. This is going to be 18 combat with. It's nothing but infantry, but it should be fine for now. We can make a total of 28 divisions at the moment. Okay, let's go forward. Let's put all our... Oh, the land of the Bohemian crown in 1936. This is a big event. The kingdom of Bohemia and the Margravate of Moravia, commonly known as just Bohemia, lies in the center of Habsburg interest. Reportedly, Kaiser Karl I favored out of the constituent parts of the Austro-Hungarian Empire and a leading industrial manufacturer for the Austro-Hungarian Empire, Bohemia has seen its fair share of Habsburg oversight and nationalist scuffles. Ever since the Weltkrieg began, the Czechs of Bohemia sought a way to leave. Rather, this was by supporting the domestic resistance, the Mafia, or by joining the Czechoslovak legions and the so-called militants. The Czechs fought tooth and nail with personalities such as Thomas Masaryk or Milan Radislav Stefanik at the head of the Czechoslovak idea. When it became evident that these wanted men that Germany was en route to a total victory, many of the men fled to the Upper East neighborhood of Manhattan, continuing as an unrecognized Czechoslovak government in exile. As time passed, however, the Czechoslovak government in exile gradually degraded into both a Czech and Slovak government, headed by the two paragons of Czechoslovakism. However, the idea still holds their hearts. At home, Bohemia went through a period of internal stability as the KUK troops, the Austro-Hungarian armed forces, at least the army I think, they cleared out Mafia resistance. Meanwhile, the sympathetic CSDSD and the CSL began close cooperation with Vienna and consistently dominated the local elections as Kaiser Karl tightened his gauntlet around Prague. In 1924, Kaiser Karl I declared his intention to be crowned King of Bohemia, resulting in mass protests throughout Bohemia and Moravia. However, this outrage from the Czechs was not reciprocated in the German-majority regions, thus a ridge between the Czechs and the Germans began to take shape, only widening as the coronation successfully took place, cementing Kaiser Karl as the holder of the Wenzel throne. However, the outrage only grew, resulting in a mafia resurgence. KUK troops were shot at and harassed by small partisan bands, actions that only spread the word of the Bohemian crisis further down into the empire. Down in the kingdoms of Croatia, Slovenia, and Bosnia, the words resonated within minds that understood the Czechs, and thus what was happening in Bohemia began to happen in the southern Slavic nations. So the chaos in Bohemia led to chaos in the South Slavic parts of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, basically. Meanwhile, in Bohemia, the riots were at a breaking point. Kaiser Karl I struck a popular deal with the rioters, which was pardon the Czechoslovak government exile, institute democratic reforms, and allow the Czechs a larger role in government, and they would cease Fortunately, this was almost exactly what the Kaiser wanted. He was finally pushing forth a federation, rather Hungary liked it or not. Thus, in 1926, the Partners' Agreement was struck, and in the first election that occurred in the 2 years afterward, T.G. Meserich and his student Edvard Benz won a historic landslide, crushing the ruling CSDSD. The Agrarians and the National Democrats similarly cleaved away large swabs of the Diet, putting the CSL and the CSDSD's long duumvirate at an end. Masaryk began to clear up the lines that the Partners' Agreement left blurry, instituting autonomy for the increasingly restless German Bohemia, who viewed Prague as oppressive and wanted more direct rule from Vienna, not a foreign Slavic capital. Since that election, 8 long years have passed, resulting in Masaryk's re-election in 1932. Many see Masaryk's death as imminent, as last year Benz was called in to lead the nation in Masaryk's bout of illness. Nevertheless, not is all fine for Bohemia. It is a common secret that many still aspire for Czechoslovakia or a free Czech nation. The German Bohemians have begun to radicalize, and the fires of war loom on the horizon westwards. But even then, Bohemia remains hopeful that truth will prevail, as it always has before. And that's our background for Bohemia, the country, which is interesting. So, let's put our troops on. The president Kaczynski got assassinated in Russia. The Russian president got assassinated. But basically, Bohemia is sort of in this position where they could or maybe could not break away from Austria. But we'll see what we do with the focus tree. We'll find out what happens. Let's move these troops to just guard victory points. They'll do, just have something to do. Keep them busy. And our allies, our overlord, and all of his puppets are guarding. They're keeping watch on the Serbian and Romanian borders. I don't know why, but they just are. The 1936 Riga Winter Olympics take place. The Polish Charter is signed. Had Mosley, Oswald Mosley, and some other people there. That is the castle in the 1936. Will take 50 days. Once it's done, we'll get a civilian factory, 25 political power, and 3% base stability. Edward VIII is crowned King of Great Britain as his father George V died. And after, what else? Yeah, the Bohemians will get 3% further from revolt. And, alright, never mind then. But yeah, we got to keep track of focuses that tell us about any kind of revolt. I don't know why the Austro-Hungarian Empire is keeping a close eye on Serbia and Romania at this time. They're just sort of, I don't know. Like, they're completely ignoring Germany for the most part, which is fascinating. I guess because they have good relations. Afghanistan declared war on the Dominion of Delhi. Afghanistan's fighting in India, basically. The Great Berlin stock market crash has occurred, and that's probably going to have ramifications for us because in the Kaiserreich/Kaiserredux universe, the German economy is massive, and it has influence everywhere. Black Monday. On the 3rd of February 1936, the Berlin Stock Exchange stopped sinking. It plunged, fueled by the instability of the market panic. Selling erupted as soon as the stock market opened on Monday morning. It took well into the night for the teleprinters to stop sputtering out the results of what became known as Black Monday. When the results had been analyzed, it was clear that the situation had only got worse. The shock of this unprecedented economic catastrophe will no doubt be felt over the entire world. The German Golden Age has ended for now. At least, mein Gott. Yeah. That's going to be felt by us. There it is. Black Monday strikes Bohemia. Black Monday, the economic catastrophe that has ravaged not only Berlin's economy, but the wider world at large, has finally spread to our Bohemia. Across the nation, businesses are closing, banks are failing, and people are losing savings in an instant. All the while, the lines of the unemployed and the unhoused grow ever larger, grow ever longer, and probably larger. In every city and settlement in our state, our government has been sent reeling from this tremendous shock, but one thing remains clear: we must do something, and we're going to get a bad national spirit called Black Monday because of this event. It's only February 1936 too, so there's a lot of stuff to go through. We have a long way to go, Electoral gridlock in France. They can't figure out who they want to elect, I guess. Poland declares the republic. They had a regency, I think, but they obviously chose to go with a republic instead. Germany's moving troops around us. They're keeping a division in Dresden. They're just garrisoning stuff, I guess. Just have garrisons here and there. Fighting erupts in China between a few warlords. The castle in the 1936 is done. Something happened in China and then involving Nanjing, and the Pope is dead. Castle in the 1936 is complete. Let's do this focus on the right here. Without work, there are no kolaches. The Czechs make up the majority of these lands, so why should we stray from the status quo of ensuring they are the focus of our government's attention? This will give us 2 infrastructure in a state as well as a building slot, and 2 infrastructure and another building slot and yet another state. The Bohemians will get 3% closer to revolt, and will gain 5%. We'll lose 5% of our stability, base stability. But it's the focus we need to do if we want to, like, rebel from Austria in the future, I think. Maybe it is. It may not actually be necessary to do it, but I think it is, so I'm just going to do it. The Empire of Japan, the Empire Kornilov storms Moscow, and the Empire of Japan declared war on the Far Eastern Republic. The Far Eastern Republic is ideologically totalist. They are totalist, and Japan does not like them for some reason. And speaking of things going on in what could be considered parts of Russia, Kornilov has seized power in the Russian Republic. Their president got assassinated earlier, after all. Karnitsky. The grand old man of the empire. Our struggle for autonomy has been a long and arduous one, to say the least. However, the current state of Bohemia is far better off than it was 20 years prior, with better Czech representation within the Austrian Empire. This is all thanks to Thomas Garug Masaryk, the first elected representative of Bohemia following his push for reforms. His years of advocating of autonomy and the liberalization of the empire was well spent, as he now leads a government in Prague with the support of much of our population. Where would we be without him? So Masaryk, the guy leading this country, has been around in politics for a long time in Bohemia in this universe. That's what that event is getting at, essentially. What it's trying to say. The fall of Vladivostok. It seems that the Far Eastern Republic is not doing very well when it comes to fighting the Japanese. They're really pushing up, I think, from Korea. They probably also could have naval invasions going on, but Japan is definitely going into the Far East. No doubt about it, though. Restoration of democracy in Australasia, that is in Australia and New Zealand. The Empire of Japan and, oh, there it is. Empire of Japan and the Far Eastern Republic have signed a peace deal, ending their hostilities. Let's see what that looks like. If there's any border changes. There is not. They're still doing cut ties with Japan, so I don't know what Japan was trying to accomplish there. That was a weird war. I just noticed this city is in Austria. I mean, that's a real place, I've heard. I think they changed the name of it, though, in recent times. It would have been called that in 1936, though. At least I think it would. Electronic mechanical engineering is finished. Let's do more research. Let's do mechanical computing for the research speed buff it will give us. That will take 201 days. That's fine. Okay, we have basic machine tools, 36 days. Mechanical engineering will take some time. Superior firepower doctrines usually take some time, but it has less than 100 days at least. And there's some warlord in China declared war on another warlord. Just what happens out there. Like, how many wars they have going on in China right now? They have... Let me check. current wars. Yeah, it's only them right now. I guess the one that was going on earlier, they peaced out. Or something happened there. Just checking research again. It's coming along, is all I can say. And yeah, that Black Monday national spirit, we're going to have to get that gone in the future. That's going to be an objective for now. One of our divisions are done training. We'll add them to our garrison army, which is our army, but they're just looking after stuff. That focus is done. Now let's do rule from 100 spires. And then after rule from 100 spires, which its description goes like this: every spire within our nation shall have a handshake or a deal made underneath it, for Master Rick and us Bohemians have no reason to cause an issue with the Viennese or Germans. Everyone within these lands shall be represented. It has the effect of 35 political power, gain 4% base stability, 60,000 manpower, and change the popularity of social liberalism. It will go up. It will go up. And then after that, we'll do purchase from the Gürtel Arsenal. And that will give us military factories. Purchase from the Gürtel Arsenal. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing everything. Yeah, I'm just going to say that now. It's going to happen a lot throughout this video. It's already happened a lot, frankly. I got to get used to this format, though. Handling Czech nationalists. If one were to inquire, it would be easy to see that the majority of our politicians secretly hope for an opportunity that may lead to our complete independence from the Viennese government, while most tend to uphold the facade of wanting to stay within the empire. There are a handful of others who are not so subtle. A focal minority of Czech nationalists speak out for complete immediate independence, and while many in the government would naturally agree with their motives, we must move to hush these groups if we want to maintain a peace and make way for a stronger Czechia in later years. And let's not jeopardize our freedom so soon. We're going to lose base war support and base stability and 40 political power because of this event. Annie Kenny is elected chairman of the TUC, Union of Britain, and it is currently late April 1936. Time is continuing to move on. The First International Congress takes place. We don't care about that, though, because we're not part of the Third International. We're not in that faction. More fighting in China. It is May 2nd. For now. Basic machine tools is done. Now let's start concentrated industry. 1. That will take 160 days. Rule from 100 spires is nearly complete. Let's do purchase from the Gürtel Arsenal. Get some military factories once that is done. War with the Newts. Karl Capek, one of our foremost writers on the international stage, has published yet another novel, releasing it to wide acclaim. This particular piece, called I cannot hope to say that, or War with the Newts, is a science fiction story about a race of intelligent sea-dwelling newts being discovered in the Pacific that is divided into multiple parts, each describing a different stage in their discovery, evolution, and eventual war. Taking place on a small island near Sumatra, Captain Von Tuck discovers the sentient race of amphibians. As the discovery spreads, the newts are first enslaved, and pressed into service as pearl farmers, being spread around the vast oceans as slaves and laborers. As the newts adopt human culture, they begin to resent their captors and evolve more completely. Eventually, the newts submit to their desire to spread and begin colonizing and expanding the world's coastlines, satirizing the imperialism of the British, French, and Germans. In time, the newts grow in strength and rebel, with the last 4 chapters of the book, of its total 27, describing the conflict. Finally, the book ends with the newts defeated humanity, and they enslaved humanity. in return. As the last chapter ends, the newts fall prey to humanity's same follies, and humanity once again inherits Earth as America in the Old World before the rise of the salamanders fades into obscurity as a mythical land. The book has been universally beloved, but it's been universally beloved, but it has received criticism for its odd nature and political undertones. It's also received hate from various conservative groups over Capek's inclusion of a section titled The Blank Life of the Newts, which details the anatomy and reproductive methods of the fictional creatures in explicit detail as a satirical parody of the natural science. Despite these quirks, the book is flying off the shelves as Karl Capek, Mr. Robot himself, earns himself another bestseller. Quite the read. That does sound like an entertaining book, though. It's not dull, I'll say that. It does not sound like a dull book if I were to read it. One Foot in the Grave. T.G. Masaryk, our beloved governor, has started to finally feel the ravaging of time. Since the turn of the decade, Masaryk's health has slowly but surely declined, as his ability to guide the state, spending most of his day resting in his manor rather than assuming his proper duties, Edward Biens, Masaryk's right-hand man, has been running the nation in his stead, and those who are in the circles of high society fear that Masaryk is merely a puppet for Bien's goals. The political machinations of these cliques slowly move in motion as the death of Masaryk seems all but inevitable. Despite the changing tides in high society, or perhaps in spite of them, Masaryk maintains appearances in public. He maintains appearances in public, smiling and waving as Czech citizens pass. For now, the people of Prague are oblivious to the elements of our dear governor, yet as more and more official capacities are taken up by Biens, those who are aware of the governor's condition prepare for the worst. Masaryk is probably going to die soon, frankly. Well, basically, this is what this event is saying. While none may know what is coming in the future, one thing is certain: death is coming to Masaryk, and with him the end of an era. The great old man's reign is coming to an end. And if you noticed in the focus tree earlier, it makes a big deal about Masaryk dying, and that will open up a lot more focuses and content for us to complete once that does occur. So it's a matter of time, really, for when he does die. Jews and Masaryk, one of the few. Okay. All right. Jews and Masaryk. One of the few issues that we face in terms of our diverse population is the integration of minor Jewish population. This is despite their deep respect for Masaryk, who has persistently defended the rights of the Jews against anti-Semitism and the infamous blood libel. The main issue stems from the leaders of the Jewish communities, who falter at any attempt to allow integration into contemporary Bohemian society. It is not likely that we will see any major development on this matter from Masaryk unless the political climate were to be shaken up enough. It's a matter we will have to deal with eventually. So, to summarize that event, Bohemia has a Jewish population, but they are not wanting themselves to be integrated, and that's posing an issue for the rest of the state. Malta secures independence. Good for them, I guess. It is nearly the end of May in 1936. And what I'm going to do here is end the video. This is going to be the end of part 1. Do check out the mod in the description below, and I'll see y'all in part 2.